Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. This video is a repost because some of you have already watched what I posted before, but somehow I left some footage at the front of the video, and it's footage with the cat and me in the craft room, and I do not know how that got on there, but it replaced the introduction to this video, so I'm sorry about that. But what I'm doing in this video is making some very easy cloth pumpkins. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to make is this one out of a winter sock. This is just what I happen to have, but the best ones for this are probably just regular socks. I just don't have any that are the color that I want for this. Another thing that would be better is if you had the same pattern on the back side as you do on the front. This, if you look very carefully, has those little non-skid circles. So obviously that's not perfect for this, but I'm just going to show you guys the idea, and hopefully I can camouflage that and use it in my own fall decor. So this is about the length that I want for this size pumpkin, and there's really no exact science because I would also prefer that it didn't have that liner on the inside, but again, that's going to work for this size pumpkin. But socks, I feel like socks are the very best because it is the most easy to make a pumpkin out of. But there's so many things that you can make a pumpkin out of. Now, you might want to turn this inside out. I'm not going to worry about it because I can easily just turn it in and still do my stitching. Now, I've got the end knotted, and I've got a pretty good knot because of this fabric that's on this. So I'm just going to take it in there and leave that knot on the inside. Not that it really matters because again, you're going to hide that. So I'm just going to take some pretty large stitches and go all the way around with this turned in. Now you want a larger needle because you're going to have a larger, you don't really have to have it for this part, but I'm going to use the same one to do my next step, and for that one you need a pretty large needle, and you'll see that as I get to that step. But you're just going to start gathering as you go. Now you want a good strong thread, and I definitely have mine double threaded here, but you want a strong enough thread so that you can pull this and keep it gathered. So I'm just going to go all the way around this. Now I'm doing something different with my videos now, and I feel like I'm saying that all the time because at the shop I'm having such a hard time making it, or I've had such a hard time making it work. But as many of you know, I finally decided to move, well, my husband decided to move my craft room to the house in the spare room, and I think I'm already finding that it's going to be so much easier to make it work. I get customers in and out of the store, and my stuff kind of ends up everywhere because I'm working on it, and then I have to move over to another area, and I think that I'm going to be able to stay a lot more organized crafting from home. And as it turns out, I'm going to have more help in the shop, so I'm going to have a lot more time to do YouTube, and I'm excited about that. So I'm trying, this will be the first one that I've actually tried to talk as I did it rather than add the voice in. So we'll see how that goes. Some of it I may be able to leave like this, and some I may have to go back in and edit. So this definitely is a learning experience, but I feel like it's going to work out a lot better, and I'll show you guys a peek at my how my craft room is going because I'm really enjoying it. I think it's going to work out great, and my daughter's cat may be peeking in every now and then because he doesn't seem to bother me in the shop. He loves being at the shop, but he doesn't seem to bother me when I craft. But in here because this took his room until I made my craft room here. This was his room completely, and I thought he would be upset about that, but he's not upset at all. He's just got company in his room, so he wants to hang out with me while I'm crafting. So but anyway, so I didn't pull this all the way because I want to add my stuffing. So I'm just adding polyfill. You could use just about anything. I have even stuffed these with plastic bags. The problem with that is the next step, that would make the next step really hard, and the ones that I did that on, I had to do the next step in a different way, and I don't like to do that. So, okay, so now I'm just going to gather this together at the center, and then I'm going to stitch it closed because you've got all this gathering. You just kind of have to work all the way around it. See, that didn't close it up completely, so I'm going to add that pleat there in and just go around until you have the whole thing closed up. So just, now you could leave an opening here for your stem. I'm just gonna make that work. This is a fabric that I can still stuff it down in when I've got this closed. So I'm just gonna stitch it all together, everything that doesn't seem to want to stay together. And then I'm gonna leave just that little tiny opening there that I can put my stem down in. So I've just about got this closed. And now I'm just gonna knot it, make sure that I get a good knot in it. Okay, and that's got my pumpkin. Now here is the problem with this particular sock that I chose. Again, see, on that side, you don't have the same texture as you do on that side. So I recommend that you use a sock that is all the way around. I've made so many of these out of socks, and I love to make them out of socks. It's definitely my favorite. So now we're gonna put a longer piece of thread on this because, and I want to make that double also, but you're gonna need a longer piece. And then you're gonna thread your needle, just like I did on that one, fold it in half, and then make a really good knot in the end. And with this one, I feel like you need even a better knot. So I'm just gonna really knot it up. I don't make my knots like a lot of people do. I just never have really mastered the knot. I just kind of wad it up in my hand and then go through it, and then sometimes you get that knotting up like I got right there. But I want it to happen now before I start working on my, just cut that off. See, that pulled it on out, so now I need to make another knot. So if you guys have a better way to make these knots, I wish you'd do a video on it, because again, it's just never been my thing. Okay, there's a knot, and I think it's gonna stay. Sometimes even, I will take a glue gun, and I don't have my glue in my glue gun right now, but sometimes I will take a glue gun and I will just put a dab on just the very end of the glue gun, or of the knot, and then that will kind of help it stay in place. But again, this has not had time to heat up, so I'll have to not do it on this one. But anyway, so I'm going to take this through here. Now I'm going to start with the bottom, and this is where you need a larger needle. Now if you go too thick with your needle, it doesn't really want to go through your fabric well, and but this being a sweater, it's going to be fine. So I'm going to push it in there. Now this is where a longer, maybe upholstery needle of some kind might work better, but I'm just going to push that down until I can see the top of that needle, and then I'm going to pull it through. Now hopefully my knot, and it didn't, so we're going to go ahead and put some glue on this knot when I start it this time. because especially with sweaters, it's hard to not bring that knot all the way through. So I'm gonna pull it through there, and there I have my knot again. That is not perfect, but okay. Now I'm gonna glue that in there. If it's hot, yeah, it's hot enough. So I'll let that knot dry. Okay. And then as soon as it dries, and I did touch that glue, but I use a low temp glue gun, and I don't usually have a problem getting burned at all. So I guess part of it is maybe my hands are calloused by now. But so the first thing you need to do is, when you're doing these, we're gonna do these little sections, and I hope I have enough thread for this. I'm starting to wonder now. My first knot may have taken too much of that. But now you're gonna pull that through, and that's gonna squish your pumpkin down like that. Then you're gonna take that first one down the seam. Now this is gonna have 2 seams, so I'm gonna have to do that again in a little bit. But you're gonna go down that seam, and then you're gonna put your needle back through again and do the same thing. So you're going through the bottom and up the top. You see how that makes your section there? And any extra puckering, we're gonna work with that later and get that worked out, so no big deal on that. So when you go back through, avoid that glue spot that you made, because your needle is not going to want to go through it. So now you're going to push it through again. Now this is the first time that I've used my hand in a while. Now because I'm not going to have, or for anything tedious like this, I'm not going to have enough to do many sections. So what I'm going to have to do is go back through here again. Go back through. Now that's all I have enough thread for, is that one. So we can still make that work. I'm just gonna do a knot there and keep this from coming loose when I cut it off. So, and you can do this if you just don't want to deal with all the extra thread to begin with, then you can do it in sections like I'm doing here. Okay, so now we're going to cut that off. See, now I have a section there, but I need to do sections all the way around. So I'm going to put, as my mother would have said, a right smart of thread on here, and make it longer so that I will have enough to finish this one. I've been doing these pumpkins for years, and I don't even remember the first time I saw somebody do one, but I just thought they were so fun to make, and I could not even begin to tell you how many I've made since then. So we're going to do the same thing with the knot again. Okay, so I have another seam right here. Oh, that's the first one I did. Okay, I have another seam. That actually did 3. So I have another seam. I guess I don't have another seam. Okay, so I'm just going to do my next section then. I'm going to go through there again. I'm going to go ahead and add me some glue so that doesn't try to pull on through. And you can see how this starts to look like a pumpkin. Again, I'm avoiding that glue with my needle. And then I'm going to pull this all the way through like that. And now I think one more section will be enough to make this look like a pumpkin. Again, it would have looked so much better if it had the same pattern all the way around. But if you're using it for your decor, then you're not going to be looking at both sides at the same time anyway. So I think this is going to work just fine. Now obviously these could be made in all different colors. Some people like them bright. I like muted colors, as you know. And I actually decorate with a lot of neutrals. So creams and whites would be my first choice, but then if I'm going to do orange, I want that very muted orange instead of the brighter. So there is that. And we've got that little pumpkin. Well, the thing about this one is you do have these little things at the bottom of the shoe. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and push that over into my seam, and then that will distract from that and just make that one section a little bit wider. And that works too, because that's the good thing about pumpkins is they are very irregular. So now all my pumpkin has to have is a stem. So I'm gonna, you could use a number of things for your stem. I just have some little twigs from the yard that I've cut lengths from, and I'm just gonna glue that down in there. So just put you, again, as Mom says, right smart, and then put your stem down in there and hold it until it takes hold good. And then you have your pumpkin. Now you can add some leaves to this. You can add some extra embellishments for this. I may just do all my pumpkins and then go back and do all my embellishments for the sake of this video. So pumpkin number 1 is finished. So I've been thrifting. Well, these are some things that I picked up. Not my usual thrifting, but I have some things in mind. All of these, actually, I'm going to be, this is a big sock that I cut the tip off of because that's what I'm going to be using for my first pumpkin. But all of these are things that I can use to make a pumpkin, and that's why I chose these colors. This is a muted orange, but I can use the sleeves here. I actually can use the rest of it, but the sleeves are always the easiest. Usually you can get a couple of pumpkins out of that. And I go to the thrift store in my area that sells clothing very cheap, because I don't care what the clothing looks like as long as it's the colors and fabric that I need. You can use these little pants that for a child, actually a toddler even. And then these are some larger pants. Again, this is all just the fabric and the colors that I'm looking for. So the second one that I'm going to do is out of this little toboggan, this little baby toboggan. Now, I'm not even sure this one's going to work. I have made them out of just regular toboggans, but this one being shorter, I'm not real sure, but I feel like it will work, but I don't need this embellishment on. So it's just kind of tacked on there, so I'm just going to just pull at it and clip it off and try not to cut my fabric. Well, I'm going to cut the embellishment a little bit, but I'd rather cut it than cut my fabric here. So now you have, it's already ready to stuff, except I'm going to take my needle and thread and do that gathering around the top. And again, this is very, very simple. You're just going to take very large stitches, pulling it to get your pleats as you go. So just gather all the way around. Again, a larger needle is a little better, but you definitely could use a smaller needle for this. And then you're just going to pull it through and pull your gathering in. Now, because this is a thinner fabric, the gathering is happening a lot easier. So, very easy to work with. So we're just going to go all the way around. I hope that you guys like the changes to my channel. I feel like, although I'm going to be crafting a lot more outdoor garden things, I still will be doing a lot of indoor things for my own house and some property that I'm working on and my daughters. So I'm still going to be doing a lot of that, but I feel like this is going to be a positive change to my channel because it's going to free me up a lot more. And what I'm most excited about is all the help that I'm going to have in the store and not have to be there so much. Okay, so I've got all the gathering there. So anytime that I get visits from you guys, and I so appreciate it, but anytime that you're going to do that, please let me know ahead of time so that I can make sure and be there or meet you somewhere else, because I don't want you to make a wasted trip. And generally people could just stop by and I'm always there, or most always there. So now here again, I'm just going to stuff it down in there. And for this one, I don't know yet if I need to overstuff it, or thinking that that maybe needs a little bit more stuffing. It really doesn't matter if you stuff your pumpkin a little tighter. It's just a different look of a pumpkin. Again, there's so many different shapes and sizes of pumpkins that overstuffing or if you understuff it too much though, then you have just way too much. I don't even know what to call it. It just doesn't work as good if you understuff it too much. But there is definitely room to go one way or the other on it and it not affect your pumpkin very much. This one's a little bit harder to figure out where I need to stitch it to keep it together and still be able to add my stem. But the more of these that you make, the more you'll want to make them, for one thing, but the better you'll get. Again, I don't even know if I finished my thought in the middle of it, but I've been avoiding a lot of really tedious crafting because my hand has done so well without them. Something has kind of aggravated it anyway, so I thought I may as well just go ahead and do this. But this is a little bit tedious, but as you can see, it's so simple to make. Now again, I'm just going all around. As you can see, one of my threads broke there because I pulled it too tight. At this point, that's fine. You just pull it on down so that you'll get that thickness close, you know, as much as you can. Rather, you'll have that one little section that is just one thread, but it still works. So, all right, now I think one more stitch and that will hold that together enough that I can finish it off with a stem. Okay, now we're gonna do one more. Okay, because I'm using a thicker needle, this kind of fabric, it doesn't want to go through real good, but okay, right there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a knot. And instead of doing a whole lot of knotting, you can also add hot glue. And actually this area here is going to get some hot glue because of the stem anyway. So there we go. So that one is put together. So here again, I've got, and I am going to cover that up, but we'll see where. And I might even be able to do my pumpkin section through that and it kind of hide it like that. So we'll see. But this one will have to be covered. But I need to cover this right here up. So that's going to be my first section so that it falls where it needs to be. But see, there that is. Now, this thread is not going to be long enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to add enough thread that it will do my whole pumpkin. So there we go. I'm just going to cut that off. Now this is my first fall video, and I know it's a little early, but it is time to start crafting those fall items so that when you're ready to put them out, you'll have plenty made up. And when it comes to these pumpkins, you don't just want one or two usually. You need several usually. So it's a good idea to start making them now. I am excited though that I'm not going to have to start quite as early on crafting for Christmas, just in time for you guys to get yours made, because I don't have to do so much in the store. I've already put what I've done out in the store and sold over half of it already. So just because I ran it on sale, since we're really not going to be doing a whole lot of Christmas in the store. Okay, so now I'm just going to put the glue on there so that I don't pull that knot through. And now I need to put my section right here on this seam. Again, I'm going to avoid that hot glue. And I'm just going to take this through here. There we go. And as you can see here, I got a little bit of that glue on my thread. There, I got it off. Okay, so there's that first one, and that covered my first seam. Okay, then I'm going to go on through. And do my second. So this one takes a little more effort than the one where you cover the foam pumpkins, and I love to do that because that is very, very simple. And I think they turn out good. See, I got that section too close to the one that I need to do here, so I just moved it over a little. And again, these sections don't have to be even because pumpkins are not even. And you can use just all different kinds of fabric for these, and it just adds so much character depending on what kind you use. So I think this one and then one more and we'll have our sections done. And I think I'm gonna have enough thread. Barely, but I did. Okay. So if you get here to the end and you don't really have enough thread to make your knot, just do the best you can to get somewhat of a knot in there. And then you can use your hot glue. And see, I'm not even going to get a knot at all. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and clip that as close to the needle as I can. And then I'm going to try to get a little knot in it. But the main thing that's going to hold it, thankfully, because I couldn't even do that, is the hot glue. So you just put the hot glue in there and don't move it until it's had time to dry. But I didn't get to cover that. And again, that's okay because I will hide it with other embellishments. So now, I guess I don't have to wait on that to dry completely because I'm going to put a stem on it anyway. So let's see here. I've got some driftwood in here, but I don't know that I like it with that. So I'm just going to use just, again, a regular stem on this one. So I like to go around in the yard and just pick up sticks that have more character than this. I usually like to have the little lumpy, bumpy ones for these, but this is what I have. But there's my pumpkin. So it's amazing how realistic these look. Obviously this one has the pattern, so it doesn't look very realistic, but they turn out so cute with not a whole lot of effort. So now I'm going to show you guys a little bit through my craft area. So I decided, I had a lot of open space in the center. I thought this room was too small for that, but I was able to put a little crafting table that I can work from here. So that worked out great. And it freed up more space for me to have more, oh sorry, my finger's in the way. More craft storage. This, I haven't worked out what I need to put in these yet because I'm trying to make the very most of my space because this room is so small. So I'm actually gonna go later today and try to, I'm gonna measure these and try to find what I can make the most of. This little cart is, I'm using that for my paint, and I think it's gonna work out great. And it's just a little rolling cart, and I'll add that in the description. I put me a little whiteboard up. Haven't decided what I'm going to use that for yet. Most of the decor is not finished, but I want to make sure where all my things are going to go. So there are some of my larger stamps. I still have plenty of room here, and I'm thinking some stackable bins there would be great. And then there's my little sewing desk and chair. Well, actually Winston's chair. This was, as I said before, his room before it was my craft room. And I actually had this little desk at the shop in the back room, and this right here is where he slept. So he thinks it's still his. But he's really enjoyed this craft room. Now there's my first bit of decoration, and there's some pieces I did for my daughter that I'm going to use in here for a while. This is a piece that we used at the shop, and I used it for display, and I'm not going to need it in that area anymore, but I love all these little drawers that I can use for storage. This is, I've gotten a good start to this, because I've gotten the containers to fit in it. As you can see, I still have a little bit more, but I'm keeping all of this clear. The great thing is with these bins, I can go all the way up to the ceiling if I want, so lots of storage there. But I just wanted to give you guys a little peek of where I'll be working from, and I'm just so excited that it's gonna work out so much better for me. Okay, so next are these pants. Now I can get, because these are larger pants, yeah, it's a large, I'm gonna be able to make some pretty large pumpkins out of them. So if I get right up in here, then obviously I can get a pretty good sized pumpkin. And now we're gonna make one out of a sweater. So there's lots of parts to a sweater here that you can use. Now I can probably just leave this on and let that be the top of my pumpkin like that. And then just cut it right here. So as you sit, now you don't want to get too short with these. If you get too tall, you can always shorten it, but you can't add any back to it. So just make sure you get it long enough. Most sleeves won't do more than a couple of pumpkins, so I'm gonna, looks like, get a couple out of this one. So with the sweater, and this is not a pullover, it just happens to be what I found. With a sweater, you're gonna get, obviously, probably 4 from the sleeves. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut these, that way I'll have them ready to make other pumpkins. Then I'm just gonna go straight down to that underneath the arm there, and then you're gonna have more up here, obviously. Okay, so there's that. And then if this were a pullover, then you could use this whole body here, from here all the way up to the armpits, to make a pumpkin. In this case though, I can get 2 large pumpkins, because this is a larger sweater, and I've got me some buttons that I'll cut off and use for a later project. Okay, so now we're going to make one of the tiny ones. Do I want to make a really tiny one? Okay, I think I may do the one that I almost cut too short. and show you what that looks like. So it's going to be a shorter pumpkin. We're going to take and go around this one. You can go a little closer with your stitches on the small one, but you don't have to. I want to keep my seam pretty short on this one because I don't want to shorten it even more than I already have it cut. Okay, now this is just a little bit harder to fit your needle. Sorry. Sorry, I had to shut my sounds off on my phone. Okay, so now I'm going to go through. Close. Now you'll see these small ones are so quick. Okay, so there is one side. I'm going to pull that in a little bit there. Now I can tighten it. Okay, now I want to close that up. Don't really need to show you guys all this because it's the exact same process. And then I'm just going to start making my pumpkin sections. So obviously, first one needs to go on that line. But on this one, there's only one line, so I don't have to worry about the other one as long as I get this one placed. And if you see that it's not going exactly, staying exactly on that line, you can put your little dab of glue and then pull it, and then it's going to stay in place better. So just keep going around, and yes, it does look like I'm going to have enough thread for this. So again, these smaller ones are, if you can pull it through there, so much easier. So if I can get, it looks like 2 more slices, then yes. Okay, so now I need to pull that one in. Now I can stitch this closed. We are ready for a stem. Isn't that so cute? Now I've got to find a small stem. This one will do. So now I can just glue that down in. Isn't that cute? So simple. So now I'm going to show you some embellishments that I'm going to do on them. This one, because I did a rustic stem, this fabric could make more of a shabby chic one if you wanted to. Because I did a rustic stem on it, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put some leaves on it. And you could start, yeah, I like that color of leaf for that. Now as you can see, I've got different shaped leaves. And I know that probably this one, if I were to cut it like that, it would be a little bit more shaped like a leaf, but I'm just not going to do that because I'm going to show you that it really doesn't matter. Most people don't really have it in their head what pumpkin leaves look like, and you can get away with putting just pretty much any kind you want. So that, I could stick it down in there, but it's not going to stick completely. So I'm just going to pull these leaves off and do them like that. Now you could, and maybe I will, because I feel like I need something else brown on this because I have the brown stem. So I'm gonna just take some Spanish moss. Now, Spanish moss, you could use it to hide little imperfections. If you didn't get your gathering completely closed, then you could do that. You could use it for that. But again, I'm just going to do it just to add a little bit of extra texture and color. So now I'm just going to put it down in there, and then it wants to stick to this fabric. So I'm just going to make sure and get all that off. And then there is that one. Okay, for this one, I'm going to give it a shabby chic look. I think it will be a good opportunity. I think this fabric is more of a softer fabric, and it'll be a good opportunity to hide that mess there. So, what I'm going to do, I still think that I want some leaves on it. So we'll see as we get to that. But I'm going to do a shabby bow. So, this is more of a pink, but if it's put on here and I cut it in small strips, I think it's going to have more of that color of look, more of a salmon color. So let's do, that's about the length that I want to do it in. And I'm just going to cut it in strips here. I'm just going to do a little bit of that to bring that in, to bring that color in with the rest of the, to make it cohesive, to make it go together rather. So I needed just a little bit of this to, so I'll have that color in it also, but I'm going to introduce some green into this because these leaves I want to use. So this is simply some old bed sheets that I tore up and just tore them into little strips, and actually I stained these, and I didn't use fabric dye. I just used watered down paint. So anytime that you want some color on them, I don't know how these would wash, but we're not going to have to worry about that. But I stain fabric a lot of times just by watering down the color of paint that I want. So there's that. And then I want to kind of warm that up a little bit. So I'm going to add this color. And this is just a soft, almost like the buttercream color that I love so much. Just maybe a couple of those. I don't want to get this bow too large because I don't want it to overtake the pumpkin. I just want it to have a soft look. I'm gonna alternate these colors. I don't have the exact amount of each of them, and as you can see, these are, I've cut longer, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna trim the whole bow down. Just alternating the colors. Put this one on top to give it a softer look. Okay, so now I'm just going to tie that together. And then I'm just going to cut it down. You don't want it to be perfect, but you want it somewhat uniform. That one needs to be cut a little more. Okay, so then I'm just going to fluff this up. The more you fluff it up, the better I feel like it looks. So, and then I'm just going to tie that on, or glue that on rather. So I'm just going to glue it, and I'm going to glue it there on the side that needs the distraction. And then I'm going to take my little leaves here, and do I want to keep them together? I think maybe I do. No, maybe I don't. Okay, so I'm just going to tear them apart here. Let me know what you guys think about voicing through the video when I can. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do this with all the steps, but when I have time, I feel like it might work, but if y'all don't like the new style of how I'm doing it, it's almost easier for me to explain what I'm doing, and I'm not as likely to miss steps. As you can see, that just makes a cute little pumpkin. Do I want that? No. Okay, that's too much. And here are the pumpkins that I finished. And again, they were so much fun to make. And you can sit down for an hour or so and make so many of these. They're just really quick, and you can just dress them up so many different ways. I hope you guys will try them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.